Chris Stevenson, and we are on the network. How you doing, Chris?
How's it going, Pat?
Well, a lot going on that we're talking about today. Tavis Smiley recently gathered together many prominent leaders that have been regulars on his State of the Black Union, which is no longer occurring, in Chicago to talk about the black agenda and basically criticize President Obama's proposing legislation which will help black people. I somewhat question that, Chris, because the man let's look at healthcare at first. Healthcare goes back to 1854. Universal healthcare was first proposed by Dorothea Dix under then President Franklin Pierce. And we've been debating healthcare since 1854. Obama comes in office in less than 13 months and passes massive legislation with health care. Out of the 32 million uncovered people that they are now going to cover, they estimate that 16 million are African American or Latino.
Yeah.
Isn't that helping poor blacks and poor Latinos?
You have right there is the first official mark that black people are getting something from a black official. Right. In this case, it happens to be the President of the United States. So what's going on here is you're going to have your black pessimists. No matter what Obama does, he's not going to be black enough for them. You know, I've heard a few of them out there. It's kind of strange to see Tavis Smiley playing that role. You know, Tavis is a good guy, good journalist. Not as hardcore as I thought he was back in the days of BET. Right. But still, you know, he does a lot. You know, he's been out there. As of late, he's devoted a lot of energy towards the State of the Black Family Conference over the last 10 years or so. This conference you're talking about, taking place on C-SPAN, and he has, like you said, some of the same people there. Right. Michael Eric Dyson, Louis Farrakhan, Cornel West, a few sisters on there.
Well, let me ask you this: what legislation have they passed?
Other than the BS legislation, I don't see it.
I mean, they came out with the covenant, but what legislation?
The covenant is not. It's just the covenant is a book of opinion. Yeah, that's not legislation.
It's a plan. It's a proposition. Right. But what actual legislation out of all those State of the Black Union conferences, which I enjoyed them, I like listening, I applauded many of the comments. What legislation have you passed? You cannot criticize a president for not proposing the black agenda when he just gave universal health care coverage to more than 16 million black and Latino people that did not have health care.
But see, that's what we have now. We have an army of doubting Thomases within the black community. Some of them are going to be out there in the forefront because they've always been in the news. They've always been controversial. This kind of what President Obama just did kind of diminishes them. They have to find some way around it. You know, they have to do this in order to affirm their own self-value as far as, race-based or the black agenda is concerned, anything related to that.
But isn't the modern civil rights, so-called civil rights leaders, modern leadership, we have not seen sincere leadership since Malcolm and Dr. King. I have a suspect of this modern leadership because most of you are driven by how much money you can make. You're trying to sell books. You're trying to sell your products. You cut deals with NASCAR and Mitsubishi and Toyota. It's a problem until you get your cut of the pie for yourself. Yeah. But no legislation is passed. Dr. King affected legislation. Malcolm affected the way we think, how we act, how we got things done. Yeah. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad put forth a nation. Marcus Garvey put together the UNIA, became the greatest movement among black people in the history of this nation. Yeah. Paul Robeson made principled stands. When is Cornel West made a principled stand other than to try to sell books, get on the lecture circuit. Same with Michael Eric Dyson.
Yeah.
What legislation have you passed?
No. Cornel West spent years complaining about getting kicked out of the Ivy League school. I think he was their Black Studies professor or whatever the case, whatever position he held, and he complained about that. Wrote books and everything for the longest time. That's good for him, and it's only good for whatever blacks that were in his classroom. The handful of blacks that were spread out throughout his classrooms over the years. They're the only ones that feel the laws. Okay, you know, as far as legislation, there's none of these men have actually, with the exception of Farrakhan, who had the Million Man March, but none of them had an ongoing movement the way Malcolm or, like you say, Elijah Muhammad or Garvey or any of these people. You know, they actually, like you said, they held the movement, and they made black people look at themselves differently, and they made white people look at black people differently, and they knew how to organize black people. We don't have that today.
But outside of Minister Farrakhan that was in this conference, which one of them have made principled differences in people's lives? Minister Farrakhan is the head of a multi-unit organization that has farms, that does things. He had put forth the Million Moors movement. What have these other guys done other than make money?
Nothing. And what you made reference to before is the two-step movement that a lot of black a lot of black leaders are doing. Is the complain and get your cut. Complain and cut. Complain, get the cut.
And you don't hear anything else about it.
And you don't hear anything else about it.
There's still no... NASCAR is a multi-billion-dollar industry now. Reverend Jesse Jackson complained about it. You don't hear any more about NASCAR being infiltrated and their fair shake being given towards black people. This has been the same tactic of leadership since Dr. King, since the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think the only person I saw at this conference that can principally say they have put together a multi-level organization that is affecting change in our people was Minister Farrakhan. He was the only one I saw at that conference that obviously can say that. Other than that, the rest of them, I think they're taking a very wrong approach towards having a president that is giving multiple amount of dollars to HBCU universities that just provided something for 16 million poor Latinos and blacks that make up that 32 million that did not have health care. Something that I think this is something that's going to be a great discussion that we need to think about. In our last minute here, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I believe so. I judge black leaders on one thing, and maybe I'm being unfair, like you said, when we talk about Malcolm and Martin. But you got to judge them on who's willing to get dirty. A lot of today's black leaders are not. You know, they want to drive their nice cars and go, you know, tour the country and everything, but they're not getting dirty. In other words, they're not rolling up their sleeves and really affecting change within the black community.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm State of the Black Union. What legislation came out of State of the Black Union?
Nothing.
Other than a book.
That's it.
Covenant 1 and 2.
Right. And a covenant with who?
That's what I'm saying. Who are you making a covenant with?
Who are you making a covenant with?
That's my fear of this. Other than that, it's talk. We need principled change in our community that is going to bring about cultural independence.
Yes.
Cultural independence is a key format, and sitting around seeing how you can make money off of the hurt of your own people. I think, I like Tavis Smiley, but I think what you were doing is going about something the wrong way, and then having it in President Obama's backyard of Chicago, I think was a principal error. And we're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks. I want to thank you for being with us here again on our Take from the Network. You can see us both on Twitter, on Facebook, and Chris writes his own blog spot, the Buffalo Bullet, which is one of the best blog spots on the internet. Once again, we want to thank you for being with us here on the network. Chris, we'll be back next week.
See you then.
All right, that's all for us here on the network. We'll see you next week. I'm Pat Freeman.
Chris Stevenson.
We'll see you next week.